Hi, Year 12's Mrs. George here again. I'm on chapter 10 today, Lydia. And you could see that chapter 9 was also Lydia's. So we have got two consecutive chapters for Lydia. Why do you think this particular structure has been decided by Digor? I think it's mainly to emphasize the importance of Lydia's story and perspective. Digor wanted to show the importance of Lydia's perspective and Lydia's story, and that might be the reason why he is devoting 3 chapters altogether for Lydia and 2 consecutive chapters as well. And in this chapter, we could actually see that within the confines of the patriarchal society, the women of the upper privileged class have extremely limited ability to express their free will. And you could see that in Lydia, even though she belongs to the upper class, since it's a patriarchal society, there is a limitation for her to express her own free will. Their freedom is actually limited to the narrow view of the womanhood offered by the community. And we could actually see that here because Lydia cannot share her free or cannot share her dreams with anyone else. Now let us look into this chapter. Lydia, I grow into a woman and know this only because others tell me repeatedly. So time has passed a little bit. Um, when he says young lady, they started calling, even father started calling him young lady instead of child or Lydia. Mother has started making more and more of a fuss about my etiquette, my carriage, and my composure. So they started talking to her that you have to behave in a bit more mature way and you have to walk, you have to think about your etiquette and all that. Um, and there is a mention of different books here. Spencer is a writer. Again, John Milton writer, Shakespeare writer. So mention of 3 different writers here. And we could call, in this chapter, there is a technique called intertextuality. Intertextuality. Intertextuality means intertextuality. Intertextuality. So that actually means that there is a reference, not just reference, there will be some kind of materials from those books used in this chapter. That's mainly intertextuality. It is a bit different to allusion. Allusion means it's just a passing reference of a name. But in this chapter, later on, you could see intertextuality. We are getting, there is a lot of mention about some of their books, even their names, very specifically and very clearly. And that's why I told that technique is called intertextuality. Now, Chapel says nothing to me, and their love started getting a bit more serious, especially in that this part. A consequence of all this talk about my carriage is, as a lady, is a stream of visits to the house by eminent. So many people, many suitors started, many eligible men started coming to her home to propose her getting married. She's getting a lot of marriage proposals. Their excuse is this, or the manner of business with my father or elder brother Thomas, but they make sure they stay for dinner and they spend time with them. Um, but what she says is none of these suitors, not one, has his wit, intelligence, charm, and sensitive nature. So she's comparing all these suitors with Chapel, and she says that none of them has got Chapel's wit, intelligence, charm, and sensitive nature, not one. Many of them are coarse in their humor and lewd in their suggestions, and what they do is they boast about money, acreage, slaves, and their accurate pistol shot. That is what they are more keen about. They haven't got a proper wit or intelligence or charm, but they are boasting about their money and acreage and all those things. And when it comes to the rights of slaves, so when sometimes she will start debating about the rights of slaves to these suitors. When it comes to the rights of slaves, I part company with every one of them without exception. No one agrees to the rights given to the slaves. So as a result, no one. One even argued that my pretty head should not be preoccupied with the business of men, and certainly not to be aided with improving lots of slaves. Who in their transportation from Africa are plucked from unutterable displays of savagery and barbarism. So these particular sentence actually shows the views about the normal people, views about the people, especially men during that time in that society. They cannot accept the fact that the slaves have got any rights. Again, father calls me into the quiet study, in the quiet of a study, and inquires after my happiness. So basically, father is trying to advise her. I say it's a shame to force a sapling to become a tree before it's ready to blossom. A beautiful metaphor there. So she's expressing her view, and she says that it is so sad to see you forcing me to become a mature tree before it is ready to blossom. So beautiful, beautiful simile. And he agrees wholeheartedly, but there is some irritation in his voice when he adds. So basically, Mr. Whitechapel, the father, is trying to advise her. Advise her. Can you find a similarity here in the chapter before? We saw Whitechapel, the slave, advising his son Chapel. So in a similar way that Whitechapel tries to convince his son Chapel of behaving according to the social class, Mr. Whitechapel here also forces Lydia to follow the conventions related to her gender and social status. So I could find that similarity. See, Whitechapel the slave is actually trying to convince Chapel about his position and about his social class, that he is a slave. Same way here, Mr. Whitechapel is actually advising Lydia and reminding her about her gender and social status. So it's a kind of similarity there. I do not feel any form of pressure until mother starts on me. She goes through the entire list. So mother starts to go through the entire list of 9 young men and allows exactly what put me off each one. So she is inquiring, why were you not happy with this particular person? So she started inquiring the details. Again, so I excuse myself from the drawing room, go straight to my room, fling myself on my bed, bury my head in pillow, and she just cries because no one is ready to listen to her, and everyone just forces her to marry an eligible person. But now she is actually frustrated. She calls Chapel. Chapel, I wish you could waltz into my house and hold forth in my company before my father, mother, brothers, the way you do with me. I wish you were white. See, look at the view. She is wishing she were white. So she wanted biracial marriages. Biracial marriages are not accepted at that time, and that's why she is wishing, I wish you were white. It's a miserable time to be me. I wish I could be with Chapel. I wish I were black. Either you should be white, or I wish I were black. Am I ungrateful, God? Have I been cloistered too long in a world? My two parents now wish me to flee. So again, Chapel, I wish you were black, you were white, or I black. So that is really important. It's a good quote that you could use her about her views, society's views, and what she is earning for, looking for, and all that. Again, Thomas is Lydia's brother. Thomas has returned Lydia's brother. Thomas is Lydia's brother. So if you want to write it down, you can. Thomas is Lydia's brother. So Thomas returned from North. As I told you, when I gave you the background information, I told you North is bit more is bit more better because they have abolished the slavery. So Thomas returned from the North saves me. He tells me stories of free blacks associating with white women. So in North, he could see free blacks associating with white women. So it's much more liberal there. And there is so much venom in his tone and such distaste etched on his face that I feign shock and horror, but calm and now to disguise what might very well break out as a smile. So she was happy to hear that, but then um, Thomas was saying it with such a venom tone, with so much venom in his tone. He couldn't accept the fact that, and such distaste etched on his face when he said that free blacks are associating with white. And these liations are open and tolerated by large sections. So he says that in North, these liations between these two classes, whites and blacks, they are tolerated by large sections of educated society who deplore the existence of slavery and advocate freeing slaves and paying them sums for their labor. Unworkable, impractical, idealistic. When they keep their secrets streets clean, they can lecture me about slavery. So this is Thomas's view. That is unworkable, impractical, and idealistic. And when they can keep their streets clean, they can lecture me about slavery. So we could see the views of common men like Thomas and their hatred towards black mixing with white. So the atmosphere in the north actually suggests that there is a hope, that there is an end to slavery. An end to slavery is possible, even because even contemporary activists are actually fighting for it. So even though Thomas couldn't accept it, Lydia is actually a bit happy. But Thomas expresses his disapproval through some of his tone and some of his dialogues. Again, yes, brother, of course, but they were precisely in North New York or Boston because she wanted to know about North because they are dreaming about that place. I see Chapel walking in arms. So that's a good quote that you could use. I see Chapel walking in um, arm down one of these dirty streets with me. Chapel and I under the same roof. Chapel and I in the same bed. So that's all her dream. I tell Chapel about this heaven on earth. And now she started telling to Chapel about this heaven on earth. That's what I said at the very beginning. This heaven on earth. What is that heaven on earth refers to? Refers to north. Paradise in earth. It's like a paradise in earth. So north is like a paradise. It's a beautiful place, a paradise on earth. Paradise on earth. He does not seem to hear. He wants something from me. Shakespeare's sonnet. This is what I said about intertextuality. Shakespeare's sonnet about number 19. So you know that Shakespeare has written sonnets. Sonnets are poems consisting of 14 lines, and especially sonnet number 19 is very famous. And the line is, or the title is, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate, and more temperate." So it's a beautiful sonnet. So there is reference to um, Shakespeare's sonnet and other text. Again, next this paragraph, there is reference to so many texts. For example, Paradise Lost is another text written by John Milton. Spenser's Fairy Queen is another text. Cathay's Faust, Pius Plowman. There are so many mentions of so many names. So that's why I told you this is all intertextuality. Reference to other text, intertextuality. Using their name in this text, it's all intertextuality. So you could use that as a technique. And again, their love is getting a bit more romantic there, full of idealism. So romantic, full of idealism, full of idealism. My darling, I agree. I urge him to think about North. So she is urging Chapel to think about North. I relate my brother's story again, this time furnishing him with every detail as it was told to me. Chapel says this journey for a lady would be hazardous. It will be really dangerous to have such a journey. For a slave, positively calamitous and therefore unthinkable. Where would we meet if we travel separately? How would I contrive to my parents to allow me to go to North? What means would we procure for our livelihood in a place neither of us had seen before? What was the route to this place? I said I knew none of the answers to his many questions, but that I could find out. So that it's their hope. They are thinking that they could escape to North where there is a bit more freedom and where there is acceptance of different race and biracial marriage and all that. They become excited, thinking about all that. That is it. They are deciding that is it. North, here we come, prepared to receive two new guests. So they have decided that they will, whatever danger there is on the way, they have decided they will go. So two of them have concluded that no danger can actually dampen their love or their deep yearning for freedom. Nothing can stop them. And goals for which Chapel will prove even he's even ready to sacrifice or risk his own life to get into that freedom and to get that to deepen their love. So keep that in mind. Nothing can stop them. That's what they say. In the next paragraph, I do not give up. I turn away and find a new path. So I do not give up. They are not. They're still thinking about it. My elder brother is ready to make one of these now. One of her brothers, Thomas, elder brother, is ready to go to the north to take an occasional trip. So Thomas goes to New York and Boston to buy materials needed on the plantation and to meet with our investors and to check our investment. I ask him if he will consider taking me. He refuses outright, but brother was not ready to take him. He just shakes his head negatively, saying it cannot work but because it will require a lot of planning in a little time. And next thing, father asks me what prompts me my interest in Norse. So brother has immediately told that to his father, to her father, that she would like to come. So I did not expect Thomas to mention our conversation to father. Thus I'm taken aback by father and have no ready answer. And she managed to say that I have met all the men in South, has to offer hand, and frankly, I'm not impressed and think it fitting to search further afield. So she says that I'm planning to go to the north because I'm tired of all the suitors here. There's no one that I like. Then he says he can foresee no problem that can be surmounted except possibly one. So father is half agreeing to it, but there is one problem. I ask what, he replies, my mother. If mother agrees, you can. But he is right. The moment mother hears about it, she says no, no, no. No daughters of hers will be sent to a strange city where families are not known to us to risk her honor and the family name. So they don't want to risk their honor and even the family name. They don't want to get into trouble. So that actually shows society's fixed view of women. Society's fixed view of women. The life has been decided upon, leaving her an extremely limited number of choices. So the life has been decided for them. So no one is ready to let her go. Tom unexpectedly says on my behalf that he knows many of the best families through his business dealings with them. So Tom is trying to help. That will simply not do, retorts mother. Mother is not happy. This is an affair concerning her only daughter and not some slave stock, harvest stock, trade shareholder, or any such impersonal business. So she mother is so adamant that she won't let her only daughter go because this is an affair concerning her only daughter, and it's not related to any slave stock. Again, that is a kind of racism there. So treating them like an animals, slaves. She says that my daughter is not like them. I look at Tom and William, both cast me looks of saying something to calm the situation, but nothing. But you interrupt me about. I blurt out, I mean to say, mother should accompany me. So finally, she says that, what if you're coming with me, accompanying me? As far as chapel is concerned, our plan has backfired on us. My mother will soldier me day and night until we pray to be back on the plantation. So that's not going to work now because mother is going to accompany them. Tom furnishes me with as many facts as he has at hand. I'm careful to inquire about. She is inquiring about accommodation in terms of my own comfort. If a slave were to accompany us, where do slaves sleep? He said many whites travel with attendants who are accommodated in accommodated in holdings appropriate to slaves. I asked him if it is a custom for any blacks to travel alone. He said no, since because they will be prone to harassments from opportunists who frequently apprehend them, rob them, beat them, try to sell them, even they protest they are free. And Lydia is imagining poor Chapel in such kind of a predicament. He said no, since they are prone to much of harassment and it will be a real trouble. And finally, Father and William will be with us as far as one place, and then they will proceed. So they have made all those plans. Poor Chapel, first highway robbers. So Chapel had to face all these dangers. First highway robbers, and then abductors. Now the weather. Considerably is his only distracted answer as he returns to shuffling his papers. Chapel is glad to hear about the accommodations that are available for Negroes. I promised to give him money for his food. He resolves to be suitably attired. We talk about our life in North. Now they started dreaming about their life in North. Childish things, really childish, such as at what hour we will choose to go to our bed when the necessity to meet in the dark and starlit nights is removed. So they have been thinking about all those. It's their dreams, and they are dreaming about their children, our children, several of them. So all childish dreams. Chapel says he will write verses for a living, so he is saying that I will write poems and I'll make money, verses for the birthdays of dignitaries, verses for the death of the prominent citizens. So he is very skilled and he is good at his poems, writing skills, and that's why he says he will make money. Chapel, he will write verses and make our lives and the lives of our children rich. So their plan and their dream. Again, that's also dramatic irony there, because we know about the impending death of Chapel. While they are dreaming, we clearly know that they are, or Chapel is going to face that imminent death. So the emotional intensity of this scene is actually highlighted because the reader is actually aware of Chapel's imminent death. So present all this is shown in a dramatic irony, using dramatic irony. So very romantic, optimistic, and very naive. Both of them, are naive. They are optimistic. They are romantic. Idealism. So all these. So their dreams about a shared future actually emphasize the tragedy of their relationship's outcome. Chapel's death actually highlights the injustice of keeping hopeful young people from realizing their dreams. So they couldn't even. We clearly know that they didn't. They didn't. They could. They were not. They couldn't achieve their or realize their dreams. So keep all those things in your mind. That's all about chapter from Lydia.